All right, welcome to another episode of Closers Are Losers. I'm back in the ball game. I was on a little trip to Europe for a couple weeks. I freaking got sick over there. Crazy. I lost my voice. Of course I did. I get sick.
Did you put ice in your water?
I don't know what happened, man. I had no voice for 6 days, dude. I was stuck in bed. I was gone, had a 15-day vacation. I was sick 6 or 7 days. Was no bueno, but I'm back. Got most of my voice back. However, I have a big keynote in a couple of days here with 5,000 young budding insurance agents, and I want to be able to talk in 2 days from now. So we're going to make this about a 25-minute episode. Here with my co-host, my business partner, our CEO, Matt Ryder. Matt, you brought up an interesting subject today. You wanted to talk about where should salespeople really begin in their careers. Tell us a little bit more about what you want to cover today.
Well, like we train lots of reps. We also have lots of reps. We have a done for you sales agency. Yep. Where we sell people, plus we have our own salespeople. Yep. And, a lot of the people who are drawn to sales are young, sort of motivated young men. That's sort of a demographic, right?
That's true.
But like if you just, in my opinion, like I had to have a chat with a couple of guys the other day, and I said, boys, this is a eat what you kill type situation.
Yeah.
And if I allow you to go out in the woods on your own, like you want to, you will starve to death.
Yeah.
So like, sales is a rough game if you're not good at it. It sort of brought the question up, and you've got this keynote for all these young salespeople, at this keynote that you have. And I was like, what if you could archetype how someone would transition through the different ranks of salesperson into being a top 1% salesperson? Yeah. What are the things that you wouldn't want to miss? Because some people just try and go straight to the end, and they try and be selling, super yachts and never been in sales before. And they realize like there is a gradated scale to, I guess, the skill sets that are required to be a really successful salesperson.
Yeah. I mean, it really depends. There's different angles you can take here. Like, I really believe in my mind, just because I saw my career like develop a certain way, is that I think if you're going to start in sales, I really feel you need to start out as some type of SDR, okay? Calling outbound leads, getting on the phones, getting a lot of experience, maybe something door to door, okay? Because I think that gives you really good if you learn the right skills, it really teaches you how to disarm prospects quickly. You have to be really quick on the door, like a lot of things going on in the prospect's mind. So in my mind, it's either starting, maybe in college or right after college in door-to-door sales and SDR, some type of position in that. I would say try to start in B2C sales in the very beginning to build up your skill level, and then really get into some type of B2B sale. You got like a higher price product, or, even like insurance where you've got more residuals, just something where you can make more money. But I do see a lot of people struggle that are like, hey, they try to get into some like, medical device sales as some young buck 22-year-old, and they never even talked to a prospect before. And they really struggle out of the gate because they don't even have minimal skills.
So I think you said a few things there. And what I want to kind of pull out of it is like, you said like, you need to go door to door or SDR where you can get lots of experience. What do you mean by that?
Just lots of experience. I mean, first of all, you have to learn the right skills. Like if you're just going out there to knock on doors or just pound the phones and you sound like every other salesperson, you're just using, traditional selling skills, you're triggering sales resistance, you're going to burn out quickly. But you want to develop the right skills. That's why we hire most of our salespeople fairly young, because we want to teach them the right skill sets from day number one. And that's not saying we don't hire people that, a little bit older, but typically we like, and 7th level in our done for you agency as well with Sales Sniper, we like to hire younger people because we can train them the right skills beginning out. But I think as an SDR, when you're like, calling a lot of leads and you're really practicing those skills that you're learning, or if you're going door to door and you're talking to tons of people per day, I think you'll just get much better, much quicker than if you try to land a B2B role and you're maybe talking to one prospect a day.
Yeah. So like that volume of interaction, being able to talk to and experience lots of different types of human beings. I think that's kind of what you're saying, right? Like that experience of being out there. The reason why door to door is great, there's no lack of doors. The reason why being an SDR is great is because like there's no lack of people to call, even if they're 12-month-old leads.
Yeah.
That is all experience, right? Which kind of,
100%.
it builds up in your brain. You start to recognize patterns, that's why like I love anyone who starts out in fitness sales.
Okay.
I think fitness sales is a phenomenal starting ground because like there's never a lack of leads.
Right.
There is an abundance of objections.
Sure.
Right? Because like with fitness, what are you asking? Stop doing things you love.
Yeah.
Right? Right? It's usually like stop doing things that you really enjoy, be in physical pain, and pay money to do so. Right? Like that does, and a lot of the time people's patterns and habits are so bad around it. So you get tons of objections. When I was selling fitness, and this is before any PQ, I would literally open the call, go, hey man, how's it going? What are you looking for? Yeah, sweet. I think we can probably help you out with that. It's this much money. Where do you want to go from here? And I would just objection handle, like straight lean into it. But what that gave me is like, I'm really good at objection handling. Like that is the thing that I'm best at, right?
Yeah.
Because I did it for 10 years, but it's all those volumes of interactions. Or like fitness sales I think it's a great starting point because you get lots of volume, lots of objections, lots of different types of people. And although it was hard for the years that I did it served me when I went into more higher ticket and more sophisticated selling environments.
Yeah.
Right. It was actually quite simple.
Well, it's the same with me. Like I got started in door-to-door sales, selling alarm systems, security systems, door-to-door. Everybody you knock on their door, pretty much everybody has had some type of alarm salesperson or some door-to-door person knock on their door all the time. So there's a lot going on in the prospect's mind. And it forces you as a door-to-door salesperson, it forces you to do a couple of things. First of all, it forces you to memorize everything you're going to say and ask. Because it's not like you can just have it on your, you can't be it like in an office, like with some questions, taped to the wall here by your computer that you can always reference. Like it forces you to memorize everything you're going to say and ask. The second thing it does, because so much is going on in the prospect's brain when you knock on a door, is it forces you to be very quick on your toes. So if they're like, I'm not interested, what are you going to say? Like, you got to like come back with something extremely quickly to disarm them in like a few seconds. All right.
Yep.
No, it's not like an inbound lead where you're sitting there and you can kind of slow down and stuff. Like you got to be really quick. And so the first 4.5 years of my career, I was in door-to-door sales, and that helped me land my second job, which was in B2B sales.
Okay.
And when I got into B2B, selling debt relief services from door to door, completely different industry. So obviously I took NPQ and, what problems do they have? How do I solve them? And wrote out my connecting, situation questions all the way to commitment questions, the whole 9 yards. But because I was so quick on my toes from door to door, going into B2B was so slow. It was like easy. It was like,
I found the same thing. And I think like, so like if we can extrapolate like what you're saying from that, it's like, selling more difficult things at a higher volume with less qualified prospects is the best way to start.
Yeah,
which is why it leans itself to younger people because they don't have financial obligations.
Yeah, and most younger salespeople, it's going to be hard for them to land like a really big predominant role as a medical device salesperson when they're 20, or to sell cybersecurity to like banks. Like most sales aren't going to land that at such a young age because they don't really have any experience.
Well, it's also interesting because like, in those positions, like what we're talking about, like I wasn't paid very much. You were commission only door to door. So like there's actually not like, besides your own income, there's not a tremendous amount of responsibility on you. So like you're allowed to fail. Right. Whereas, one of our, I can't say the name because we're under NDA, but one of our large consulting clients, which we just started training, is a bank.
Yeah.
Right. That Australian bank that I was telling you that we started doing stuff with. Right. Their salespeople are on $190,000 a year salaries.
Yeah.
And for the most part, they need a lot of work. But that's the reason why turnover is high is because if you're paying someone that much money, you need immediate results. Yeah, and when I was talking to their chief revenue officer, I was like, you're paying them too much.
Yeah.
I was like, not only does it disincentivize them actually making commissions and all that kind of stuff, but I get it. SaaS is sometimes different and banking is different, but you're putting so much burden on them to perform immediately that like you'll just fire them. because like you can't take that burden. So it means that like it takes 3 months for someone to figure out offers who isn't like a very gifted salesperson, who doesn't have structures, any PQ trained. It takes them months, right?
100%. I think the best type of jobs are straight commission, because especially as a young person, like you can have that job forever, because if you don't produce, like there's no skin off their backs, right? If you're just out knocking doors, there's millions of doors, right? Now, if you don't produce, eventually you're not going to be able to pay for your rent or your house payment or anything like that. So you're going to have to learn new skills or get out of the profession. I would suggest just learning the right skills, because it makes sales easy. But the company's not going to fire you after 2 months if you're not producing a lot, because you get paid straight commission. It's not like they have any overhead.
Exactly. Especially, and that probably changes in somewhat with inbound leads, you know what I mean? Because you got to pay for them. But yeah, like, and also like that's where you risk it to get the biscuit. If somebody said, hey, listen, I'll pay you $300K a year salary or straight commission, I go, brother, straight commission it is.
100%.
Right? Because like that, my potential for income is so much higher with straight commissions. And because I was lucky enough to just run into you one day, I have the right skill set, right, to be able to then, you know, be able to make whatever it is I want. And I was $100,000 a month earner, and
yeah,
you know,
it's the same thing with me. Like every job I went to after door to door where I was being paid straight commission, I negotiated straight commission. Like when you go into B2B, it's pretty much they're going to give you some type of base salary with like lower commissions. Usually it just depends on the industry. There are some industries that'll give you a base plus a big commission bonuses. But I remember when I got into debt relief services, it was like 150. This was like 2005, 2006, and it was like 150 grand commission plus like health insurance, you know, plus with my commissions, if I got all my commissions and quote, I could make like 350 grand a year. And I'm like, man, I don't want to make 350 grand a year, bro. Like last year selling alarm systems door to door, I made 450,000 in a 4-month summer. I only worked 4 months. The other 8 months I took off.
I don't get sick. I don't need your insurance. Give me more money.
Why do I want to work a whole year to make 350,000? So I negotiated straight commission, because I'm like, look, if I'm going to do this job, I want to make over $1 million a year. And like, kitty, yeah, you know, I can just look at them like, oh, but this is the best deal of our lives, straight commission. You know, after a few months, they probably started regretting that. But I was able to get up to 100 grand a month in commissions. One point is actually about 110, 115,000 a month. I got in the industry. I made about 1.3 million a year was but 1.5 is what I actually got up in that industry before I left. My book of business was getting bigger. I probably could have eventually made more, but there's no way I could have done that with the freaking salary. You know, working the whole year to make over $1 million. Yeah. You know, I was only 26 at the time, something like that. But then after that,
when I was 26, I was kicking doors at an Afghan, man.
Exactly. You were shooting.
Getting paid fucking nothing.
Getting paid nothing.
Getting paid nothing.
But it's so true. Like after that experience, I'm like, I will never work for a salary again. Like when I started 7th level and we started paying ourselves salaries, that was the first time I ever had a salary. Like in the 4 years I was in, I legitimately never had a salary, because I didn't want a salary. I wanted to have like no ceiling. I wanted to be able to, hey, you pay me on production.
I can take it away if you want. It would significantly increase the profit.
I know, right? Pay me a high percent, you know, I was always like, pay me a high percentage. Like, hey, you're paying all your 5% commissions. I want 12%, but you don't have to pay me anything. It's just on production. People are like, oh yeah, that's great.
Yeah. Okay. So like high volume, potentially like B2C for sure is the place to start. High volume B2C, somewhat more difficult in terms of like just, you know, not like you don't want laydowns coming in. You don't want laydowns coming in, guys. Like I can't tell you. And then from there, like, you know, starting in a position to where like you're allowed to fail. Like you have an opportunity to fail, because you will. That's how sales is. You'll fail. You'll be bad at it until you learn the right skills and you get the experience in order to do so. Yeah. So I think that that's really, really important, because, you know, I think from what I see, like especially the industries that I come from, like coaching, consulting, I think it's broken. It's ass backwards. People are, you know, coming in from being a fucking truck driver, excuse my French, you know, saying that they want to earn 30K a month in commissions. It's like, mate, but you suck at this. Like you legit suck at this. Like what's going on here? Yeah. You know? And so I think it's good for people to realize that, you know, that there is a way in which to do this. And, you know, it's going to be different for every industry, but putting yourself in a position to where like you can get the experience required to do the job effectively is so important, and not shortcutting that because you're given opportunities
Yeah.
right? Opportunities, and some opportunities, especially in the days of we're in the days of online marketing. There are so many scam offers, and there are so many things that it's too good to be true. Guys, if they're paying you 40% commission, it's too good to be true.
That's not going to last.
It's not. Don't do it.
There's no profit margin there. It ain't going to last.
Yeah. Yeah. Or there is a profit margin. That's even more terrifying.
That's
right. Like, what aren't they doing? Right.
They're not. So, that's for sure.
Yeah. So what are some of the shortcuts that you see, like people who you've gone through in your sales career? I guess what do you see as the things that have just stopped people from moving up the ranks?
I think the main thing that's stopped so many people from moving up the ranks, because let's say they get really good. Let's say they start in door-to-door sales. Yep. This is a big thing coming from the first industry I was in. I still have friends that are still knocking doors, and they're in their 40s. And so what they do is they don't really know how to sell, right? To be
fair, some of them are great at it. You got Joseph Robert, who's one of our coaches. He makes $100,000 a month.
Sure. Yeah, no, sure. He hardly works. I mean, he works like 4 hours a day, but that's different. He's good. Salesperson, they get into an industry and they don't really understand the psychology of selling. They don't understand why people buy or why don't, but they don't understand behavioral. They don't understand human behavior.
Okay.
So get in and they can talk a good game and they'll have some few lines and they'll make 6 figures a year, maybe a couple $100,000 a year. But then they're like, oh man, I'm getting tired of going door to door. I'm 35. I've got 4 kids now. My wife doesn't want me to travel. Like, I just don't like it. I'm going to go sell insurance. And then they'll go sell insurance. And because they don't understand buyer psychology, they don't understand human behavior, they can't pick it up. And then 3-4 months later, their income drops down 80%, and they come back to door with their tail between their legs, and they think that's all they can do. It's because they don't understand selling. They don't understand the right skills, right?
Yeah.
They don't know how to transfer from one industry to the other and pick it up like they, and becoming a top rep in the other industry. So one of the biggest things, one of the biggest downfalls I see is that most salespeople stop learning. They get good at what they do. They know their script or whatever, and they stop learning more advanced skills. And so their income stays capped. And if they get bored of that industry or their industry goes down, let's say there's a recession and they're in the travel industry and it goes way down, they don't know how to take skill level and go to a new industry and dominate that industry.
That makes sense. They're just sort of like relying on, numbers, product knowledge.
Get to the gap.
And just sort of
I call it personality selling.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense, because like having like in our advanced inner circle sessions that we teach, we have people from all different industries, selling in a similar manner, being very, very successful. But I can, as me, I've sold in 3 or 4 different industries, but I can help someone who's selling water filtration systems or door to door, because there's a methodology behind it.
Yeah.
And so it's no, like the psychology of what you're trying to get from that answer is this. So let's ask it in this way. Let's ask these questions, because what problem are you trying to solve? Yeah. You get water filtration people like, they're cleaner water for their house. It's no.
Yeah, what problem?
What? Your daughter has eczema because of the water quality. Oh, okay. Yeah. You know what I mean? You can't drink your water out of your own tap. So now you have to buy water bottles every single day. Oh, how much is that costing you per week, per month, per year? 100%. Right? These are the problems in which we're solving. And so that goes down to I've never sold those things. Right. But understanding NEPQ, because you've taught me how to do it, you look at things from a different angle and you start to understand what are the problems that we're solving? What's the psychology of this buyer? Then you start to put together profiles. And then from there, you have your process and your scripting to fall back on. And so you can seamlessly go from industry to industry and be very successful.
Yeah, connecting questions all the way to, consequence. Like this company here, like Vivint, they're a great company. It was the last company I switched over to. They were called Apex before Vivint, but me and another guy took about 30 to 40% of the company I worked for before, where I was a VP of sales, over to this now called Vivint company. It's called Apex at that point. And I just sold there for a year, and they're like, we want to make you this big, regional manager and all this stuff. You're going to make all this money. I'm like, no, I'm getting tired of door to door, because you had to move every summer to a different state, move away for 4 months. Ugh. 3 kids at the time. I'm in my, 26, 27, somewhere in that range. I'm like, this, I know how to sell. I can do this in any other industry. And I remember the chief sales officer. He's like, man, I'm going to see you back here in 6 months, dude. You know, you're going to come back. You make way too much money a year. You make over 450 grand a year and you work 4 or 5 months out of the year. Like, you're not going to make that out there in the real world. I'm like, oh, no.
What do you mean real world? It's like, motherfucker, I'm door knocking. It doesn't get more real.
I will not come back. And I remember that, like, I'm not going to come back. And so my first year in that new industry made over 780,000 in commission.
Yeah, you burn the boats.
I remember send him a screenshot. I don't think, when was that? 2007. I think I sent him a screenshot. I don't know if I emailed it to him or whatever. I don't think text you could do that. But I sent him a screenshot. I'm like 7,805. He's like, holy shit, how did you do that? I was one of the only people that left that industry that never came back and made 10 times more money in other industries. Because most would leave, and if they left, they would either sacrifice income and make way less, or they'd come back with their, tails between their legs because they couldn't figure it out.
And it's because they just hadn't gone through the steps required to be an actual salesperson.
Yep, 100%.
Right? Because I think a real salesperson who's gone through the steps and learned the skills and had the experience and taken the experience that they've gotten, like all the experience that you've gotten, and compile that into like okay, now I can start to, like, you'd spoken to enough people, right? You're not going to speak to many different types of, like, more eclectic group of people than if you're door knocking, right? So now you've got the skills in order to then take that and go to different industries, because you know the type of people that you're talking to anyway, because you've already spoken to them, and then 100%. You can start to build from that.
And I remember this company, and I love them. I think they're an amazing company. I actually have their alarms in our houses and stuff. But I remember back in
Was the sales guy any good? 2013.
No, not good at all. I just because I like I like the company. I like the hats. They've got a good brand. But I remember
I like the hats.
I remember in like
It's a very Jeremy thing to say.
It was 2012 or 2013. They actually flew me out to their corporate headquarters in Utah, and they had this huge campus. This was before they sold to Blackstone for like 2.2 billion. But I remember they brought me in, and the owner was like pitching me. No, I don't want to say pitching me. He's a cool dude, Todd. But he's like, hey, we're starting this solar division, and we think you'd be the perfect person to be the vice president of sales for solar. And I'm like, well, how much can I make? I made 2.8 million in commissions last year. Can I make 2.8 million? And he's like, yeah, there's no way we can pay that. And I'm like, well, there's no way I can leave the job I'm in now. I'm just a salesperson. I make almost $3 million a year. Why would I come in and make 600 grand for you? That's what I'm like.
Should have taken those options though.
What? I'm sorry. Yeah, the options would have been good for sure later on, but $3 million a year to 600 grand a year with maybe it might.
You're doing fine. You're doing fine.
You're doing fine, right? That I had complete control. I could do anything I wanted to. It didn't really matter because I had a sales process that actually works. And I see so many salespeople, they just don't have a sales process, and that's why they have to stay in one industry, even if they don't even like it.
All right, and that's a beautiful segue. And where should they go if they want to learn more about this sales process?
You want to learn about NEPQ, neuro-emotional persuasion questioning, like thousands of our clients who sell exactly what you sell now.
12,000 active clients to be precise right now.
12,000 active clients. We've actually trained over 351,000 people. Did you know that?
I did not.
Virtual events, live events, and everything we've done for sure. But anyways, you want to learn those type of skills, start making 10, 15, 20, 30 grand a month consistently in your industry with what you sell, maybe even more. First place to start with us, just go to our free Facebook group. You can kind of get a little hors d'oeuvres, check it out a little bit.
Boom.
Go to www.salesrevolution.pro. So salesrevolution.pro. We'll have a link in here, salesrevolution.pro. Right when you join, check your DMs. Somebody on my team, our team, will message you a free training called the NEPQ 101 mini course.
Actually, I just reshot some videos. Yeah. So we've updated it as we always do.
Going to break down NEPQ, give you some different questions you ask for different situations. That alone will help you sell more. We go live in the Facebook group about 3 to 4 times a week. Me and Matt do with different trainings.
I was there yesterday answering questions about objections and specifically.
100%. I'll be on there tomorrow. I was on there today as well. Just
beautiful.
Poland. All right.
And we got to stop giving away so much stuff for free.
I know. We give them little hors d'oeuvres, little nibbles though. They like the little nibbles before they get involved in the advanced training where they make a ton of money. So go get some words, go get some nibbles, and we'll see you on the next show. Thanks, Matt.
Beautiful.
Appreciate you being on. Talk to you soon.
Bye.
Hey guys, if you enjoyed these, here's another you can watch right over here, right over here. Join our free Sales Revolution group. Click the link below, join us, and we're going to help you. Thanks for watching. We'll see you real soon.